Good afternoon, good day, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another session. I think this is the 37th session of Cancer Power Circle. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and through many conversations with cancer survivors, breast cancer survivors, we find that it affects them in many different ways. Today, we bring yet another unique perspective of someone living well after breast cancer. So we talked to Farida Rizwan, who is a breast cancer survivor of more than 25 years, and how she navigated uh, parenting of a child with cerebral palsy and intellectual disability, as well as gained financial independence. Um, Quick reminder to our audience, Patients Engage is an online platform for patients and their family members dealing with chronic diseases. It allows them to share experiences, information, learn from each other, and make decision-making processes easier. The key thing really for us is to make sure that people have the information they need to be able to make better choices and to know that they're not alone, that there are others in the same boat, and they can reach out and seek help. In the past, we've done a whole series of conversations with cancer survivors, and you will find all of these recordings on our YouTube channel as well. So we've talked of, living with colon cancer with a touch of humor. We've talked of bladder cancer and the psychosocial effects of living with urostomy bags. Breast cancer alone, we've done a whole series, including tackling issues of body image, side effects of hormonal therapy, and getting fit after breast cancer. Again, different approaches by different people. We've also touched on how it affects relationships with children, with spouses, as well as how childhood cancer affects various people, plus also physical issues like lymphedema, which affects both upper limbs as well as lower limbs. A reminder to our audience that the views expressed in this discussion are of the panelists and are only intended to spread general awareness. So they may not always reflect those of the platform, and they definitely do not replace a medical consultation. So please discuss with your doctor or reach out to a doctor for specific medical issues. And you can post your questions on Zoom, on Facebook, and YouTube. We'll try and pick it up as we go along. And as always, you can reach us through our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, or you can reach us on our website, www.patientsengage.com. So let's get So a reminder that today we have with us Farida Rizwan, who is an education professional. She's a curriculum developer for a learning app. She's a founder and administrator of a preschool and daycare, and she's also director of a special school and rehab center. So clearly she's got her hands full. She also happens to be a breast cancer survivor and a parent of 2 children. We will talk more with her about her experience, and I will be running. I'm Aparna Mittal. I'm founder of Patients Engage, and with me is Urvi Sabnis Dave, who's herself a breast cancer survivor as well as a caregiver to her mother. So let's get started because we have a lot to cover. So thank you, Farida ji, for joining us today and sharing your experience with the audience. So if you can introduce yourself, I know I've done a little introduction, but if you can introduce what you think of yourself and, who is Farida ji? And you can unmute yourself, please. You are on mute.
Sorry about that. Okay. Thank you, Aparna, and thank you, Urvi. Actually, it's a great pleasure to be here and really talk about my experience because I have come out with a lot of positive things from my experience rather than going towards the negative or spiraling down. So I always feel happy talking about it because I think my life or whatever I have gained after that should be an inspiration.
Right.
So, yeah, it is a tough thing to fight with. It's not easy, but finally you feel, yeah, it's worth it. it's worth, the life has been worth all the fight and whatever I have gone through. So
Right.
there's nothing much to introduce about myself. I was one person who questioned everything, and I was born that way. I was not somebody who could be easily told to do this or do that. Or many people labeled me a feminist and this and that. I'm against the rules and indoctrination, but I feel that is the right way to live. Right? We don't have to listen to everyone to tell us what to do. So that's me. I got educated after my cancer, and I
Right.
became a professional also after that. So now life is good. That's what I should say.
So we'll
Nothing
come a little bit to, yeah. Let's start with at the beginning, so to speak.
Yeah,
When did you get diagnosed with the breast cancer? And,
I was
what were your early symptoms?
yeah, I was diagnosed in 1996. That is, my daughter was 11 months. She was diagnosed with special needs as well. I was breastfeeding her. And when you breastfeed, you usually feel the breast, whether there is sufficient milk this side or that side. And on the left side, I could feel something like a pea inside the breast. So
Mm,
usually we get that hardened milk, it creates kind of lumps. So I thought
mm,
that was it, but this looked little hard and little different. It was like something bone has been inserted or something like that. That time my sister was going through cancer. She was at the fourth stage uh, in April 1996. So I thought, okay, my dad had cancer in 1992. He had Hodgkin's, and then my sister had breast cancer in 1994. So maybe it will not happen again. So
mm,
that's a very, uh, it was a very odd thing to happen. Like everybody is getting cancer in 2 years. So maybe it is not cancer or anything, but let me keep an eye on it. So after some time, I went to have a bath and I just checked out the lump again. That time it really hit me, kid, this is not normal. This doesn't feel like a part of my body. It is
mm,
something different. So I went for a biopsy. I consulted a doctor who suggested fine needle biopsy that. So the result came out as third grade cancer. It was in third stage already. It was just the size of a pea, but it was in third stage. And the lymph nodes, he said, probably are affected as well, and it's spreading fast. So you had
right.
to undergo surgery quickly.
So you went through surgery, and then did you have chemo? Did you have radiation? What was your treatment protocol then? Because this was 28 years
20,
ago,
yeah, 27 years ago.
27 years ago.
So yeah, back then, even though my sister had gone through cancer, she had rejected all kind of treatment. She
Mm,
never wanted to go through treatment. She was very hesitant to lose her hair, lose her breast, and compromise on the quality of life, and she felt it's not worth fighting that
mm,
hard for anything. So I would like to live my life without going through all this chemical treatment and everything. She was anyway very hesitant about hospitals and doctors, and was never comfortable with it.
mm,
So I had no experience what would be happening to me.
right.
Doctors gave me options of conservation of breast, uh, or go for a total radical mastectomy. And I made a choice that I will go with total radical mastectomy against the wishes of my family and my husband and everybody,
Mm,
because I had 11-month-old special needs child, and I had another one who was 4.5 years old. And my main thought at that time was, I want to be there for my children. I want to be on the safer side.
mm,
And losing a breast did not mean a lot at that time. So
mm,
losing your life or losing your breast, and the children losing their mother, that was a bigger concern. So that
right.
meant I will go for total radical mastectomy. So I told the doctor, get all the margins clear, let me be on the safer side. He tried to explain to me that even conservation of breast can be done, and it's not like very unsafe, but total radical mastectomy would be a better choice. So I went
Mm,
ahead with the total radical mastectomy, and 12 cycles of chemo. So it
mm,
was six, like it would happen 1 week, and after a gap of few days again, and the next month again the same thing. So 6 months I was on chemo, but no radiation for me,
mm,
because the doctor said the margins are very clear and you are completely safe. With chemo, it should be okay. So you need not go to radiation.
right. Um, And, since you said at that time your sister was at stage 4 breast cancer, so it also, you had two small children. I think your son was about 5 years old, if I remember right.
Yeah, around 5, not at
Around,
5.
not yet 5. And then your husband was away. Your sister was going through stage 4. Um, Obviously it affects the kind of support you can get from your family when,
Yeah.
two people are going through cancer at the same time, right? So how did you manage? And, even stuff like, did you end up having to go alone for chemo sessions, or did you have somebody who always came for chemo sessions, post-surgery support? How did you handle those periods?
Yeah, that's the thing I had forgotten completely about. Because at that time many other things are there. This is, I think you are the first person to ask me that as well, because yeah, that was never a bigger thing for me. Actually, my husband was away when I was diagnosed and all the surgery was arranged, but he came back before my surgery.
Hmm.
And now I wish she wouldn't have come back, because there was a lot of confusion. It was like, no, no, don't go for allopathy, we'll go for homeopathy, we'll try um, ayurvedic and this and that alternative treatment, and you can, then if it doesn't work out, you can go for that. Was very confusing, because I was very sure, and I was very, very sure, and I was very positive that this is going to work for me. I
Hmm.
never had, I'm not telling that allopathy and I mean Ayurvedic or homeopathy is wrong, but I felt for my case with the surgery and chemo would be the best.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was, again I had to fight it out to go there. And as I was not earning myself, the
Right.
financial thing also became a big thing. So yeah,
Right.
you make the decision who's going to spend for you.
Hmm.
Those questions also come.
Correct.
No,
Correct.
and yeah, that was the first time like awareness happened to me that when we marry and we settle down, we do the housework, we bear children, we take care of the family. But whatever the finances, the man is the earning
Hmm.
member, and then all the finances are in his hand. That's not the
Right.
right thing, right? Either we should be allowed to work, because I was not allowed to work until
Hmm.
then, or we should be given a share of the earning, because we are doing our part and he's doing the earning part. So all the earning shouldn't be the man's. So,
Right.
but at that time I didn't have the energy to fight it or anything. And I spoke to the doctor about the bills and everything. And doctor said, okay, you go ahead with the treatment. We'll check out with the bills later. Whoever pays it or whatever we can do, we will see it. So that
Hmm.
is something I have to be grateful to my doctors for. So I actually forced my way into the treatment. But people were there, like you said. Yeah, I was alone back then.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because yeah, during my surgery also, my mom and dad, I kind of avoided bringing them more into the hospital,
Right.
because they were really, it was too much for them to take two daughters going through cancer.
Correct.
And
Correct.
my sister, you know how the cancer progresses, right? You may have
Hmm.
seen somebody who has not gone through the cancer. The whole kind of chest was covered with a single wound.
Hmm.
The breast had almost disappeared. So it was very traumatic for them to watch that, and then to again realize maybe the second daughter will also go through such pain. So it
Hmm.
was like too much for them, so I avoided them. My younger sister had to be with my elder sister all the time. And somewhere I think uh, being alone was the best thing I could do. And uh, I never realized that it it was a big thing to do back then. But yeah, I went through it most of the time all alone. For chemo also, I just walked to the hospital and I took my chemo and walked back. I did not want to take my children also there, because again it was more traumatic for them to go through it. So most of the time I just walked in, I took my chemo and I came back.
Hmm.
It looked so natural back then. Yeah.
Right. I guess it's once you've decided, it is. And there was somewhere I was talking to somebody, or somebody's telling me that ultimately you do go through a lot of life alone, even if you have, right? I mean,
Yeah.
in some ways you are kind of always alone. Even if you have the best support, you're still alone in a lot of ways. So I think, but you were also physically alone.
Physically.
Um,
Right.
yeah. And you'd mentioned you had a mastectomy. You had a single breast mastectomy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So did you have issues due to that? And, were you told about potential issues at the time of the surgery? And
Yes, I was aware of all the issues that would follow,
hmm,
and even how the hand movement can be restricted, because I had all the lymph nodes had to be removed. Nearly
right.
lymph nodes were positive according to the report. So lymph nodes had to be removed, and hand movement could be restricted. So the doctor told I had to go through the exercises and everything, which was quite painful.
Hmm,
But I had 11-month-old, as I told you. So the baby needed care. So I had to carry the baby. So the
hmm,
exercises became natural. So there was
hmm,
no escape from the exercise. And I
hmm,
went for long walks also back then. And so as I was little bit, I think sometimes being poor is very helpful, because I used
hmm.
to walk everywhere and I used to carry things. So that also helped a lot. Now I just book an Ola. So and the weight gain is a problem now. But back then, yeah, there was a lot of exercises I had to get, and I was staying also in a remote area. Like
Right.
because of my daughter, I had shifted near Bangalore Children's Hospital and Research Center in Rajarajeshwari Nagar, which was
Hmm,
not a very developed area back then. So we
right.
couldn't get any buses or autos very regularly. So most of the time I used to walk. And yeah, the issues what happened was I had size 36, like
Hmm,
the breast size was 36, and it was heavy. Like losing one breast made me feel like there is some um, loss of balance. I don't
right.
know, because of the heaviness or whatever it was, but and I was also breastfeeding, so the
Hmm,
breasts were
hmm,
quite big, and then losing all of a sudden one breast, it made me feel like there is kind of my shoulder would just droop or something.
hmm,
And leave alone reconstruct surgery, I did not even know, or I did not go with the proper prosthesis as well. I
hmm,
got to know about it through um, cancer chat website in US. So
hmm,
there the friends told me that they use prostheses and they send pictures, and I was like, oh, this is quite helpful. And when I
hmm,
started wearing that, I could make a huge difference. The
right.
shoulder became a little bit straight, but my orthopedic surgeon tells me that there is some effect on the spine, and there
Right.
could be two things which could have affected my spine. One is the mastectomy, and other thing could be carrying my daughter for a long time on one side on the hip. So I
Hmm,
carried her until she was 8. So these
right.
things have affected the spine, but definitely the shoulder pain has vanished after I started wearing a proper prosthesis.
So how long was it till you figured out that there is something called prosthesis?
I may
You know,
sound dumb over here. Don't make fun of me. It took me 10 years to realize that.
wow. But nobody told you that is the point I'm saying. Nobody,
No, I mean,
no, the
I
hospital
never,
didn't tell you there was,
no, no.
right.
I don't know whether prostheses were that common in back 27 years ago in India. And
Hmm,
I underwent surgery in Bangalore Children's Hospital, not an onco hospital, because
right,
my daughter was being treated there. It was just next to my home, and the doctor from an onco hospital came there and treated me.
right.
So yeah, that was one of the reason I could go there alone. I was very familiar with people, and I was very familiar with the hospital. And it was
Hmm,
like I used to take my daughter for physiotherapy there every week. So it was
right,
like just going there and getting the treatment and coming back. I
right.
mean, I went for my biopsy also all alone. And yeah, I carried my biopsy specimen to lab, everything. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So
So
one of the things that I remember, I think Urvi, you talked of it as well, is that, when the biopsy results come, the doctor will tell that, come with your husband, right? Or will call up your husband, etc. Did you have that? How did you navigate that?
husband was not here, right?
I know, but
And
the hospital people knew that, or
no, no, they knew that because I was taking my daughter for physiotherapy every week. So they knew,
right,
yeah, and they
right.
knew the family situation, like what is going on in the home. And so they knew that they had to tell it to me. So
Okay. Okay.
the doctor
Urvi, in your
actually,
sorry.
he was very, like he was not very comfortable telling it to me. He knew that I was going through a lot, and it was very difficult for him to express it to me. So, yeah, that was it. But yeah, he had to tell it to me.
Right. So, Urvi, in your experience working with so many survivors, do you think this information on prosthesis is more recent, or it's, when you meet older survivors, have you found this to be an issue that they were not told?
This is an issue even today. If when we talk to patients from rural areas, they are not aware. I wouldn't say all the patients from urban areas are aware, but yeah, and they are not told if they don't ask for the information. So that needs to be improved. And another thing which I have noticed in the patients who are even aware and who are using them, they are not very happy with the processes. So I've seen that sometimes patients say that I don't wear those things while going for a morning walk when it is dark, and I feel so free and So at that time, I feel that in this month we should make people aware that let the cancer patient be free. Let us not body shame them. Yeah,
Right.
these are two major things that comes across my mind.
So I think two parts to it, right? One is, of course, the body shaming, which obviously should not happen and it should be the choice. The other thing is that it does, as Farida ji said, that there is an imbalance that gets created without, especially if it's a single breast mastectomy, which I think is less and less common these days. But I'm sure, again, rural, etc., it would be more common, right? So I think with that, then there should at least be some advice given that, okay, if you're not doing reconstruction or it's not breast conservation, then consider prosthesis, right? So at least that information should be given, as you said, to patients so that they can decide whether they want to be free or whether they want to wear it, or what makes it work for them, right? So because I think we found that we had that discussion as well, right, in one of our previous sessions, that when you're doing intense activity like running, etc., then there are not too many good options, even with prosthesis. So people do kind of then prefer to not use it. So I think, but again, the point is that information should be available.
There should be a
Farida,
Sorry, Urvi, go ahead.
No, I'm saying there should be a protocol.
correct.
No,
Yeah.
actually, what I feel is with the prosthesis, I don't feel anything like I want to be free of it. Actually, I feel more comfortable because one thing is when the operated spot, when it is not without any protection, it kind of even a little bit of a touch or anything, it gives a kind of a sensation which is not very comfortable. And when I wear a prosthesis, I feel quite comfortable, and I wear it for the walks as well. Only thing is, I just wipe it clean and keep it neat, and you wear a cover or something on it. But
Right.
I have been very comfortable with it, and I have felt like more comfortable with the body after wearing it rather than removing it. Yeah, of course, when I go to sleep, I remove it because I don't want to damage and bite again and again. Sleep, I think it will really be disturbance. But when I wake up, usually I do wear it because it
Right.
gives me a proper feel of the body. And for the appearance, actually I could do something like I would really roll up a muslin cloth or a cotton or something in the shape of a breast and keep it on the chest and wear the brassiere, and that worked for 10 years. But there is a lot of difference when I wear a silicone proper prosthesis which has like 1.5 or 2 kg of weight or something. I don't know how it weighs, 1.5 kg, I think. So that gives a very different feeling. Actually, it feels good when I wear it. Yeah, that's my experience. I don't think everyone feels that way, but
Right.
I do feel it that way.
Yeah. I think again it is unique, and I think people need to figure out. Some people prefer the cotton knitted ones. Some people, as you said, prefer the silicone ones. Um, Coming back to your narrative, when was your mother diagnosed with breast cancer, and how did you feel? How did she feel? Um, yeah. And was there difference in the treatment protocols offered?
Yeah, actually, my mom was diagnosed 8 years after my diagnosis. That was in 2004.
Mm,
And yeah, of course, she also had a lump, and she thought maybe I'm too old to get it. My daughters had it now. Maybe I'll not get it. But then she went for a checkup, and it turned out to be uh, same kind of cancer. My sister, my mom, and we both, three of us had the same. And it is, we are like BRCA positive,
right,
BRCA positive.
right.
And yeah, it is kind of genetic with us. And my mom again was very hesitant to go with chemo. She went for surgery. She thought, when the breast is removed, why should I take chemo? There was no
Mm,
way of convincing her.
mm,
And it had a recurrence. And then she agreed for chemo, and the first cycle of chemo turned out to be very deadly for her. So
mm,
she passed away in 2006.
mm.
My
How
sister,
old was she?
she was 65. My
Mm,
sister was diagnosed in 94 and she passed away in 96. My mom in 2004 and 2006. So both of them had a lifespan of 2 years after the diagnosis. So
right.
I would recommend for everyone, whoever is listening or whoever is going through cancer, or if they know somebody, go for a proper treatment the first time.
Mm,
The second time is very difficult. The first time, the proper treatment works good. And I
right.
think my desperation was quite helpful at the time. Like, yeah, I don't want to die. I want to be with my children. That desperation made me take all the risk-free steps at that time.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So I think you kind of talk quite strongly about the fact that, you just wanted quantity of life, right? And
Yeah.
you wanted to be there for your children who were both very young. Um, Tell us about, you've talked a little bit about how, uh, you know, cost for treatment or financial challenges associated with the being able to decide on treatment choices was a factor. Um, but when did you kind of decide that, look, this is enough, I will go back to work, or I will go back and study more? And when did you get started on that process?
I started after first cycle of chemo.
Mm,
Yeah, I started back then because as soon as I realized that I cannot even make choices to save my life, which is a life-threatening situation, then no relationship is worth it, or no societal norms, or whatever I'm born into, what I'm labeled into, like a woman, you're this religious woman or this kind of a person, nothing is worth it.
right.
I just decided to say everyone, "Oh, please go to wherever you want to go, and I will do whatever I want to do."
Mm,
And I started very small. So first thing I bought was a sewing machine. So I started sewing, and I started making curtains and dresses, and then I started stitching soft toys, started selling them. So it started very small. Um,
mm,
and buying also the machine was like I bought it on installment. Whatever I would earn, I would pay for it. So whatever I have done since then has been on my own. My education has been funded by me, and whatever I did, I have not sought help from anyone,
mm,
because I felt if I seek help, again, I will be thinking that I am dependent. If I want to be independent, I have to do it on my own. It was a big struggle, but that choice helped. I started small, and then I started going. I went for counseling. I did my diploma in counseling skills,
mm,
and I started giving tuitions for children, coaching children to be mentally strong for SLC exams and all those 10th board exams. So those kind of things, I started very small. But yeah, once the growth happens, you just have to nurture it and it grows. Nobody, I think nobody has any barrier. Nobody has any limits. It's all thing in our mind. And once you
mm.
come out of it, there is nothing which will stop you. So I started after my first cycle of chemo. I started very small, doing small things, but I wanted to be financially independent after that.
Right, right. Um, And so you started basically kind of working from home, right? You didn't step out as much during the treatment period, or
No, I had
did you?
to. I had to.
You
Yeah,
had to.
I had to travel a lot, and I had to travel to public transport sometimes along with my doctor, carrying her as well.
Hmm.
Um, And I used to go bring the materials for making soft toys. I used to bring things for the soft toys. I used to go to shops and sell it. I used to sell it through Helping Hand in Banjara. There were a lot of places I had to go. I had to do a lot of things. So yeah, I had to go out.
Right.
Not like regularly morning 9 to 5, but yeah, that was a lot of things I had to do.
So, you were still going through treatment. So you
Mhm.
must have had hair loss. You've lost a breast. You're at high risk of catching
Yeah.
infections during chemo cycle. So how did you, I know it's a long time back, but how did you navigate that, especially because often people are very concerned about hair loss and going back into public view.
Mhm. Actually, yeah, it was little bit because people would ask questions directly.
Mm,
What
mm,
happened to your hair?
right,
Yeah,
right.
and anyone wanted to know what happened to your hair.
Mm,
Like, yeah, it was like I sometimes would. I mean, I hope nobody takes offense. I would tell I went to Tirupati and came, or I used to tell, yeah, I did it for somebody's funeral or these and that. I used to sometimes quip, sometimes I would honestly tell them I'm going through cancer and I have gone through chemo. And sometimes I would just give a very bad state. That
mm,
happened more often to any strangers asking me or any friends. So people who knew I'm going through cancer also would sometimes ask. And
mm,
yeah, the hair was a big thing with people. But
mm,
I had to go out, and then after few months, I got some roughly made local wig. Yeah, and nobody questioned why you're wearing a wig. That
mm,
nobody questioned. It was very clear that I'm wearing a wig. It was not like. Then I had
right.
a little bit of small hairs coming out, and then I would cover the wig with it, and then it was like nobody could make out also.
Mm,
So yeah, hair was a big thing. About the breast, yeah, sometimes people would stare, or I may have felt they're staring because I was conscious. They
mm,
were just looking like they look at a woman. We all
right.
get stares, right? You're good, you're
Mm,
bad, you're old, you're young. People stare at you,
mm,
and maybe I may have felt they're looking at the mastectomy part or something like that. So I usually now I think it was most in my head that they were looking at it. But
mm,
I decided that whether people ask me whether I look good enough to do go out or not good enough, I will go out. That was the
right.
decision I made. But for 6 months, I avoided as much as possible going out and mingling with people because I used to get infected very quickly, and
Mm,
I was prone to getting a bit of cold and a lot of phlegm in the chest and fevers and everything. And that would again go to my daughter because she
mm,
would be very close to me. My son also was getting infected a lot during that
mm,
period. It could be the stress also the children were going through.
right.
Plays a huge role.
Correct,
So
correct.
I used to avoid being exposed to a lot of things.
Mm, right.
But after 6 months, I was fully functional.
Okay. Okay. And you talked of your children. Tell us a little bit about, the role your children played, right? Apart from motivating you that you want to be there, how else did they support you? Especially, I think you talk of your son's support quite a bit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Actually, my son was just 4.5 when I was diagnosed, and the first thing was he was very scared.
mm,
He could hear that people are talking about something about his mom, and something is happening to her. And whenever he walks in, we are stopping, and that actually got him very much confused.
mm,
And I was a little bit worried whether we are doing the right thing by hiding things from him.
mm,
And I consulted a counselor back then, and I asked them, okay, this is the situation and what should I do. I
mm,
also spoke to his pediatrician, Dr. Nandini Munkur, and she also suggested don't lie to your child.
mm,
Be honest, but make it feel like you're not in a big danger. So
mm,
kind of talk to him because he's too worried.
right.
And that is when I sat down and spoke to him, and I told him, but I have something wrong with my breast, so I may have to go for a surgery and I may have to remove the breast. He was so relieved. He said, my, this is a breast. Okay,
Mm,
you, Farina, can always drink from a bottle. It's not a big
mm,
thing. And yeah, if it is a hand, leg, or eye, then it is a big thing because then you may not be feeling. The breast is just an optional, right? It is not a necessity.
mm,
And if it is that is the part you are going to remove, it's completely okay.
mm,
And from there it began because he gave it a very light kind of a thing, with his expressions.
Right.
And I told him, I may need your help in managing your sister and everything. He was like, yeah, I'm going to be there. And keeping his promise, he was there for me till now. Even now, if I have to go somewhere or do anything, he's there for his sister.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
that means a lot to me.
True. True. Urvi, you want to add anything here?
So, how did he respond to this hair loss and all?
Hair loss, he was very scared. Yeah. Now, it scared him quite a bit when I went through hair loss. And his friends also, when I went to pick him up from school bus or anything, they would also ask him questions, what happened to your mom's hair and things like that. And it was kind of disturbing him. And I think when I started making the soft toys and everything, and I had a little bit of hair back, he had done a very good painting as well. He had done a very good painting which showed his mom going through needles and a child very sad. And there was another side where the mom is making soft toys and she has hair, and he was very happy. So something like that, he had made a drawing as well, which he expressed through his drawing. So
Right.
I could understand it meant a lot when I got my hair back, that he felt, yeah, my mom has overcome this thing. But both the children, it was like having my hair back meant a lot for them.
I think it's a visible element, right, for most kids. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, for the children, it was a big deal. Losing the hair and mom being bald meant like she's not well. Yeah. It was scary for them.
Right.
And I have never covered my head with a scarf or kind of anything. So when I lost my hair, I was like, I don't want to do it for hair loss as well. You know, because if I have not done it, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it now. So either it will be a wig or a bald head, but no scarf.
Right.
That was the thing I followed. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, your son is now
31.
31. Wow.
Married.
And I think you said he's married. So, you know, did your family's history with cancer become a factor in the whole, or was his sister's disability a bigger factor?
That was the biggest factor. Many people were upfront asking me, should my daughter come and like take care of your daughter? Does she have to serve her? Will she be dependent on her brother forever? And all that. Yeah, that was a very, very big factor. The society looks up to people with any special needs as a burden. And it is like, yeah, does she use bathroom on her own? Or does she need to be fed? And kind of questions were there. But I decided when I was going through the searching for a bride for my son, or we were just looking around. It was not an intense search or anything. I decided I have to be very calm and not my at my sarcastic best or give those kind of answers there, because it was something, if I did that, maybe it will never work out, because I may not find that one person who's different, or maybe the girl is right but the parents are like this. So I decided to be very neutral on that front. And then there was the question, what if your cancer comes back? That will be a burden on your son, because he's the only son. And then it was like, will his children have cancer, or his children will have disability? There were two things, right? I had cancer, family history is there, and my daughter has this, and I also have a disability. I have a club foot. So those things were really scary for many people.
Right.
They were willing to pay dowry. They were willing to do a lot of things. But these things they were not willing to agree with. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know that it is still. Urvi, you want to add anything on that? I know you've kind of had these questions come up in the patients you counsel as well.
Yeah, so people do ask these things, but we tell them to be very clear with the things, you know, if they have reports about BRCA or, you know, genetic discussion with a genetist, or they should be clear with the, you know, people meeting them.
Correct.
Yeah, so 50%, more than 50% would say that they are not interested, giving any other reason, but yeah, they do have withdrawals.
Right. Right.
No, I was very open about whatever we are going through, because I didn't want to fool anyone. And if they have like problem with it, I thought they have the right to have fear, right? And the fear, if they don't want to be there, I didn't want them to be there. So I never decided, okay, I'm going to hide it, or I'm going to not disclose it early itself, because that was the thing I started with. These are our issues, and we have this. If you're okay, we'll go ahead. That's how I started.
Right.
Till I found a wife good enough. Finally found someone.
Right. And I know you talked of counseling along the way a little bit, but can you tell us, when did you decide that you will seek some counseling help, and how did it help you? Because again, it's one of those things which everybody says, yeah, see a counselor, but people then don't know how to navigate it, don't know whether it's useful, etc. There are a lot of myths around it as well.
Yeah. For me, one good thing was the counseling was free through Helping Hand. They did not charge me anything, because if they would have charged me, I think I would have postponed it a bit.
Right.
But I realized I need counseling, because being sad, being angry, being frustrated, or taking it out on children could have had a very bad effect. And I didn't know how long I'm going to be there for them. But definitely not 27 years was not the plan I had. I had like 15 or 5 to 15 years. Yeah, if I get that much life, good enough, my children will be like in the teens, and they will be grown up, and all those kind of views are there. And I felt, okay, if I'm not having a long life, and if I'm not going to be there with them forever, I don't want to live bad memories of a sick mom being angry, hitting them, scolding them, or anything, and how to overcome this. So I decided I'll seek help and counseling help. So it was a very calculated and a very very strong decision on my part. Okay, no matter what anyone tells. So people were telling that you do not need counseling. You are going through treatment. You are going through cancer. You are not a mentally ill person.
Right.
Or you are not a, what they call the a mad person. They have the pagal log, and in Kannada also they have the terms. They use that kind of terms. I told them, no, I think we all need some time, at some point of time, to go through the counseling. And I went there for nearly 2 years. And I started with my cancer issues. Yeah, I have breast cancer, and I'm not having proper financial support. I'm bringing up children alone, and all those kind of issues. But through the counseling, and through the course of counseling sessions, like 1 or 2 sessions in a month, I came up with a lot of past issues which I had and which I could resolve. So I came out a much better and a stronger person after the counseling.
Right. And I know you said people asked you stupid questions about hair loss, etc. But were there other, ridiculous things that people said or tried to do, in terms of breaching privacy boundaries? And
of course, there are. I don't understand. You ask women to cover themselves from head to toe and everything, and as soon as they have some illness or something, how does that privacy go away? Like, you just want to see the. Yeah, I had lot of questions which were really really very shocking. I never expected them, that people would ask me such questions, like, how did you get cancer? Now, I don't know. That question has no meaning, right? Nobody will ask that question. Now, at this stage of my life, like when people ask me that questions, I have come up with a lot of answers. Like, yeah, there was a sale on Flipkart, and I got it from there for a very cheap price. I really wanted it, so I got it, something like that. So sometimes it becomes like, see, one thing cancer made me is, it made me strong, and it made me very sarcastic. I mean, I have very rarely answered in a straight way. I have not been answering anyone straight way, because the questions themselves were so crude.
Right.
And they were like, how your poor husband is dealing with your cancer. I have gone through the surgery. I am the one who is facing the chemo and everything, hair loss. And why you are concerned about my husband dealing with it?
Right.
And then there were like private questions like, can you show us your operated spot, how it looks? A lot of those kind of questions were there. Again, I had some very quirky answers for them. And then there were the questions about how is your sex life going on after cancer? Can you normally have sex, or is your husband like is he pleased with you after your
Is
cancer?
he still attracted to you? Is he still find you appealing?
Attracted was not a word they ever used. I don't know why, but I'm very sure they never asked attracted. But it was like, are you able to please him or something? And there were a lot of the things, and I also had some very nice answers for them. Okay. Yeah, don't worry about the husband. He's not the Thakur from Sholay, who doesn't have hands or anything. He will please himself. Don't worry about it.
Right.
When what happens is when people ask you very stupid questions, you don't want them to be asked again and again.
Correct.
So you have to come up with some answers so
that shuts it off.
Yeah, shuts it off. And I have been very nasty, I should say. And I don't regret it. I really enjoy it. In fact, I wish I could be a little bit more nastier than that.
Right.
Yeah. I never held myself back in answering people. I have never been like that also. But still, it didn't stop them.
Right.
Still, even today, when I go out somewhere, I meet some old relatives or something. How is your cancer doing? Cancer kaisa hai tumhara? And I tell them, I don't know. He's quite grown up. He's 27-year-old. He's independent to go and live his own life. I don't take care of him now. He's gone. He's an adult. He's not a bacha to take.
No, that's because in a lot of Indian language, sometimes they say ke wo bimari pal rakhi hai. No, there is this. So...
Yeah, with me, I sometimes I don't know how that answers click to me, but yeah, but it comes just like that.
Urvi, from your experience again, talking to people,
Yes, everyone, I think all the survivors go through this, stares and glares and questions. So my way of answering is always very firm, right from day one. That if someone asks, बाल चले जाएंगे, I would say, वापिस भी आ जाएंगे. These days, after 7 years, if someone asks, how are you keeping? I always answer, I'm good. How are you? And there comes a full stop, that we are at the same level. Now I am no more a cancer patient.
Right.
Coming to this privacy part, since I've gone through reconstruction, like I've seen many people inquisitive about how does my breast look, how does it feel. So people ask me, and I answer it depending on my relationship with them. So if I want to say, then I say. Otherwise, I just question them back that how do you see? They look identical, right? So that is science, it has developed so much. And so that way I just divert the question too.
Urvi is so nice, actually.
I know.
So nice, actually. I have not been very nice. I've been very nasty. Because, sometimes when patients ask me, I do answer, and I have shown my scar to the patients, and I have told them how the surgery went and everything. But just anybody. Correct. My aunts, daughters, sass, her sister asking me, that's too much. Like anyway, everyone wanting to know everything about you.
Correct.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. No, I was never good to people who were bullying me or teasing me or
being nosy or.
Yeah, from my childhood I have been like that, because I had a limb and they used to call me lagdi and this and that, and I have always given it back very properly for them. So that was there in practice, it was there, and cancer actually made it a little bit more interesting. And then there are a lot of questions being asked about my daughter as well. So somewhere, as I told you, I started enjoying the answers I give them. I like the look I get on their face also. So that also good.
Correct.
When the patients ask me about reconstruction, I explain them 100%.
Yeah, that's the see, there you understand there is a need for us to tell them what it will look like. Somebody wants to know before they go through proper radical mastectomy, that how it looks after. Yeah, I'm very willing. I will take my picture and send it to them. That's absolutely okay. But everybody, they are like, "Hum to aurat hai na? Like, I'm a woman. Why can't I see you?" I don't want to show myself to a woman. Better I show myself to a man. I'm very uncomfortable showing myself to a woman. So they don't understand that part sometimes. And
Man or woman, right? It really is a
yeah,
question of you. It's your choice who you
yes.
want to,
No,
and
that is always
nobody
like,
has the right to assume that just because you are a survivor or a patient, that it's okay for them to even ask, right? So,
no,
uh,
that insensitivity, that thing is very, very high. That it's very high and very rampant. It's like it's there everywhere. I mean, very few people I would find who would be like, take my permission. Can we talk about your condition? Can I ask? That permission is there. And then
correct.
I'm a little bit okay. I start off on a good note. And if they ask me in a proper way, yeah, I go ahead and explain it. Maybe they have a reason of asking. Even if it is stranger, I may talk a lot. But this kind of that thing, na, and then they go back with the anger that she did not respond to us in a proper way. And that like, oh, she's very this thing. That is why God punished her. And this is what happens. She didn't learn her lesson even through cancer. And I tell them, if cancer would have taught lesson, you needed it more than me. Yeah, you need a lot of lessons to learn. And yeah, that is how it works, Aparna.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. I think we probably lost Urvi. Any final words to the audience?
Yeah, I would. The one thing what happened with me was cancer never became very important in my life. It was not an important. It was a big thing to deal with. It was difficult to fight. It gave me a different perception of my whole life after the experience. But it was never important in my life. The importance was always my children and how to actually get back what I lost. I
Right.
mean, I gave up my education and I gave up my career and everything. And I did not want to die being that person who gave up everything and then died of cancer. I wanted to achieve something before that. And I wanted to actually make my life worthy. And also, I wanted to be there for my children. So that became the focus of my life. And somewhere I was forced not to make cancer a big part. Cancer was there. Yeah, it is there somewhere. Hai kahin par. It was
Correct.
there
And
somewhere
it
in the
has been, I
background.
guess, a springboard as well in some sense, right?
Yeah, it was there. It was there, and it showed me the true challenges of life and what. And sometimes I feel very grateful it happened to me at the age of 29. If it had happened 20 years later, like at 49 or something, I don't know how I would have dealt with all the challenges if I had wasted again 20 more years of my life.
Right.
So it happened at the right time and everything. And the main thing was I did not focus on it. I did not pity myself. I got cancer or kya hoga and anything. My focus was survive, take care of your children, be independent. You be in charge of your own life. Make your own decisions. Actually, many people who do their own decisions, who are in a position to make their choices of buying a cloth or eating food or going for a treatment, will never realize how depressive it is and how insulting and humiliating it is to be dependent on others to make choices for you.
Correct.
So I wanted to get there. So this focus, which was shifted from cancer to life, like how to lead my life and how to regain my life, I think that helped me survive a lot. Because whatever you think, it stays with you, right?
True.
Whatever you think about. So if you think about cancer, I have to, even when you think I have to kick cancer, I have to come out of cancer very positively, very strongly, but you are still thinking about cancer. My focus was just get educated, be independent, make your own life, take care of your children, be a good mom. Yeah, I have been a good mom. I kind of, many parents say maybe we made mistakes with children, maybe we should have done this. I have very less regrets when it comes to my children. I mean, my children have been very good to me and I have been good to them. We have a very healthy and a very nice relationship. So that's it. So I think your focus should be not on cancer all the time. It shouldn't become a part of you. It shouldn't be important. It is there. It was there. Fight it out. Forget it also. like as I told you, unless you ask me for a webinar or talk about it, I usually, now if I'm going out of this, I'm going for a music concert and I have a lot of things to do. I'll be concentrating on that. I have a lot of things
Absolutely.
to cover up today. And yeah, I was telling my daughter-in-law the same thing. I don't have enough time for this Saturday. I'm like very busy. So the cancer is actually not there in my life at all, I should say. It did its good job and it then just went away.
Correct. That's
But
why we
people
call
have not
the
forgotten it.
session after breast cancer, right? So yeah. Urvi, anything that you want to add?
No, nothing. I think it will end. This session, it will be very inspiring to patients going through, because it was with all odds. She has fought with all odds.
True.
Yeah, the odds I think have been much heavier than cancer itself. I mean, cancer has been a very, very small part of my fight, actually. The other things which I had to deal with and come out of has been much huge, huge than cancer. But actually, for people, it has been, yeah, she survived cancer for 27 years. That's great.
Yeah. So I think often people think that, and that's one of the big challenges, that if you can survive cancer, you can survive anything. And, there are often times when other things are more challenging than,
Yeah, it is.
Living with cancer. But again, it also depends on the type of cancer you have and, how often it recurs and stuff like that. So, and I think it's also an example that no two cancer stories are the same, right? So, you've kind of touch wood, but you are a good example of a survivor of 27 years, and that's great after a stage 3 breast cancer, BRCA positive. So I think so hats off to you, and I think there are lots of learnings, as Urvi said, from this session, not just for how to go through cancer, but also how to the importance of financial independence for people to be able to make choices. We talk of patient empowerment, but time and again we find that it's a huge struggle in families for patients to be able to make their choices. Often the rest of the family is making choices on their behalf. And I think the fact that you turned that feeling of disempowerment into a quest for financial independence is extremely inspiring and creditable. So hats off to you, Farida Rizwan, and thank you so much for sharing this journey, and all the best to you, your family, going forward as well. So thank you so much, and thank you to our audience for listening in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Urvi.
And thank you to Patients Engage as well. I just saw the list of the videos you were sharing earlier. I would like to go through some of them.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.